Nick, you've been a part of hockey in many different roles. You're coming to a group that has a responsibility to produce and to be prepared and help our teams win. But we're going to be talking about tougher, not softer. Can you explain that for us?
Yeah.
Tougher, not softer. And what I understand is that we're talking about people now. We're talking about people that have relationships, people that have families, people that have different things going on. But when you're on the ice, you got to be tough. You represent your own company, Retribe, but you also have a job with the International Ice Hockey Federation to take us into the next step about handling our players and the responsibilities that we have to the person, not only the athlete. Stage is yours.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're well. Halfway through this symposium, and the organizing committee and everyone who's gone so far, I just got to say well done. You guys have done a great job. Put your hands together. Are there any injuries I need to know about? Any little niggling injuries? Any sore heads? Anything? Please feel free to get up and stretch if you need to. Water's there if you need to sort out the head. My name is Nick Rothwell, and I'm very pleased to be here representing this logo here, the IIHF Integrity, which is there to ensure that our sport is played clean, fair, safe, and with the highest ethics possible. All right. Did anyone go to the game last night? Yeah? Cool. Just a general question, right? I'll probably pick on these guys here because I can get your eye contact, but why are you here? Anybody? Why are you here? One word answers is good. To learn. Yeah, I knew Barry, you wouldn't let me down. To learn. Anything else that pops up while you're here? But I like that we're here to learn, you know. And Job yesterday, he really did key on some of the aspects that it takes to learn. And something that I'm going to get into a little bit about challenges, you know. So it is halfway through this symposium. I don't think anyone's imposed any challenges on you. So I'm going to do that right now. I need everybody to just do it's nice and easy, but just listen to the instructions. Seated hockey stance. Okay? So, seated hockey stance. Everybody, feet on the floor, shoulder width apart, spine nice and straight, head up. Okay? Now the instructions are going to be this. On the count of 3, with any hand you want, you're going to reach as high as you can. Up into the air. You're going to reach as high as you can and try to touch the ceiling. Okay? On the count of 3, and you're going to hold it. All right? So on the count of 3, with any hand you want, hockey stance. Okay? Don't want to bag you skate, you're already, buddy. All right? Hockey stance. On the count of 3, any hand you want, reach and touch the sky and hold it. 1, 2, 3. As high as you can. Good. Now hold it. Now I just want you to participate or not. As high as you can, brother. As high as you can. Hold it. All right. Now deep down in your gut. Okay? Third period. Right? Dig deep, and I want you to dig deep as hard as you can into your power, into your stomach, and reach a little bit higher. Reach a little bit higher. Okay, put your hands down. Okay, now with a show of hands, on the second go, who reached higher? Show of hands, who reached higher? Who reached higher? Come on. If you reached higher, put up your hand. Say the majority of you reached a little higher. Couple of questions to impose on you, right? Why didn't you reach that high the first go? My instruction was to reach as high as you can. Why didn't you do it the first go? You don't have to answer that. The second thing to take away from it is there's always more, right? I am so happy to be here to talk about hockey because we are a family. And Greg mentioned the other day in his talk, it got a little emotional when he talked about us being part of a tribe. And I'll tell you what, guys, hockey saved my life because I had that little bit a little bit more. So I'm here to talk to you about not softer, stronger, coaching the full spectrum of human performance. The name of my company is Retribe, so I'm very interested in how we've gotten to where we are today. And I suppose I will just give you a little bit of history, right? I was born to English immigrants into Canada in a little place called Pontiac, Saskatchewan in 1971. Okay, so I grew up in a little farm community with a father who was a teacher, son of a coal miner, rugby player, and a basketball coach. And he coached basketball against Brian Trottier. And Brian Trottier's dad, Buzz, became pals with my dad. So I have very early memories of sitting on a tractor fairing, right? The PTO is just spinning away, and going down fields with these guys in front of me who were hucking 50 and 75-pound hay bales into back of trucks with weights, not those nice soft weights you get now, but with weights tied around their ankles with hay bale twine. And that was Brian and his buddies. So I grew up wanting to be like them. So I would spend summers on farms mowing grass and shoveling hay, no health and safety, and playing hockey to the best of my ability. And I played AA hockey in Saskatoon. I had a chance to play AAA, but I just couldn't quite make the team. But I bounced back and forth between Junior B and Junior A. And I had some challenges in my life where I had problems with emotional regulation. And I thought that I was better than my AA midget coach because I was playing Junior B. And we got into an argument and I got suspended for a full season. I ended up going to the UK to play hockey. I played there for 9 years. I put myself through university, which was something I wanted to do. I got a degree in English and history. History is a big part of what I'm here to talk about today as well, because I really got interested in how we got to where we are. My professor at university was a guy named Dr. Martin Pauly, who's a very famous sports historian. And I ended up getting a job on TV as a TV presenter. So I started my own company, I was on TV and I was playing hockey, and it was just getting a little too much, so I had to stop playing hockey. But I embarked on this life that I chose with challenges along the way, some more challenging than prosperous, until I did find some solutions in my life, and I built Retribe to help guys like me along the way. And I found it was not just when I ended my career, but all through my life. I wanted to provide a support system for athletes, and that's what I do today. So, as I mentioned, I like history, and I had a couple of coaches that I don't know, they just annoyed me. They were like very power over threat-based coaching. And I was talking to my university professor about it, and he said, Nick, let's look into this. I'm interested to know how coaches became coaches. So I like to say that the game has made us who we are, but it's now our turn to shape what's next, to be a little bit curious, to know that we can know a little bit more. So as I say, hockey gave me everything. We've heard this all before. We're getting too soft. What happened to the good old days? And I get it because I've said it myself. But holding on to that mindset can keep me stuck. Always looking to the past for solutions of today can keep me stuck. You know the metaphor of the rearview mirror in your car, right? It's only this big, but your windscreen's this big. There's times to glance back at the past and learn from it and honor it. But also, we want to be curious about opening up our spectrum, our views of today. So it has made us strong, but like I say, it's come with some blind spots, mainly power over threat-based leadership that can create a fear, unperforming team. And we're not here to rewrite history, we're here to write the next chapter. And the IIHF is asking all of us to take the lead, not just with performance, but in overall athlete wellness, okay? Overall athlete wellness. So this is a coaching evolution, not a revolution. And Bethany and I know you're quite keen on this as well, right? The evolution of the coach and looking at athletes as people. Ray Ferraro said it in that video the other day, that we want to coach the person, not just the athlete. So we're here not to fix players, We're here to unlock potential, which Job has talked about a lot, about that potential in us and how we can unlock that potential. I think there is a power source in us, that one that made me dig a little deeper in those dark moments, that got me through. That one that you could dig a little deeper now and just get that few millimeters or centimeters higher, okay? So as I mentioned, we have to respect the past. So I have to know where I come from, right? I have to see how we started coaching. And it goes back to, let's say, our generations here, the people in this room are affected by mid-20th century events, okay? And we know that there was an ending of a war, and people were coming out of that war. There were not a lot of people around to hold events for people, because a lot of people had pastimes that they wanted to go out and kick a ball or throw a ball. So it was normally people who coached were from the aristocracy, from middle class. And because they had time. They could actually give their time to people. And you have to look at where they learned how to lead. And which was, it's from these very strict, disciplined, fear-based lineages. So coaches like Lombardi, Landry, and I know Bowman wasn't in the services, and Lombardi, he coached at West Point. Landry was actually in the Air Force. So you have some of the most iconic coaches of the time coming from the military. And then, of course, they're going to teach what they know, right? You only know what you know. And this is what I say is we only know what we know, so let's just learn a little bit more. And something that, again, is the heart of integrity is do no harm. I think it was some kind of Google slogan, right? Do no harm or whatever. But really, isn't it why we're here? Is to lead people, to perform, to be good people, and not hurt anybody, right? And I know that's kind of a little bit hard to land with people. You're out there, some of you volunteering, to lead people in this great game. I don't hurt anybody. But I'm just suggesting that sometimes when we pull things from the past that might not serve us today, we can actually do some harm, all right? So this is going on a little bit about what Joe was talking about the other day. There is a science, neuroscience behind fear. And I don't mean fear someone's going to beat me up or, fear of getting hit by a bus, right? These are just basic fears that we have. But we can have fears of not being accepted, fear of not fitting in, fear of not being seen, fear of not being respected. That's one I had as a coach. Coming into a new environment, are they going to respect me? Well, I know how to I'll just show them some discipline and I'll break a stick. They'll fear me then, and then they'll listen to me. And these are old ideas that I had along the way that I now know. Fear has a trigger survival mode of fight, flight, freeze, and flop. They're pretty easy ones to understand. You're going to want to fight, and that was me younger. When I got scared or embarrassed, I would fight. Flight, run away. Freeze is, you can still move and freeze, but you're limiting your responses. You're pulling back in your responses. And flop, that's something that you do when you get attacked by a bear, okay? You just give up, right? And just wow. But it shuts down the control center, our prefrontal cortex. So yelling, punishment drills, shame, these kill learning and creativity. Players stop learning and start avoiding. And that's something we do not want in what Heather was talking about with her practices. You want people fully engaged and being able to learn and be challenged. So coaching with fear teaches compliance. Yeah, you'll get guys to listen to you, but you're not going to get confidence or any form of excellence. Fear might get effort, it doesn't get excellence. Now, Sebastian Junger, I put this quote in from Sebastian Junger. He's written several books, but he was an American war correspondent in the first Iraqi war. He studied human men's behavior in war and just tracked back our lineage, And that's kind of why Greg got me the other day when he was talking about, I don't know if it got anybody else, when he's talking about it being in the changing room with sticks, ready to go to war, and the bonds. Like that's why like hockey players struggle so much when they stop playing, because we're playing a dangerous game. We know it, and we accept it, and we get out there, and we go hard for you guys, right? And these bonds are created. And Sebastian Younger says, men don't mind hardship. People don't mind hardship. What they mind is not feeling necessary. I don't know if you've ever excluded anyone in a changing room for doing something because you think you're doing the right thing. But that person is feeling rejected, dejected, and flat. And if you've got one of those on your team, it sneaks around, right? So understanding our human evolution has been imperative for me. Always thinking, how did we get to where we are? So the solution around this is psychological safety. And I don't mean mollycoddling and, but I mean creating an ecosystem of safety, all right? Where players, this is what safety means. They can take risks, fail. We learn by making mistakes and grow. Unsafe teams play to avoid mistakes. So when you have these drills and all of these practices that are being drawn up, if you're in fear of making a mistake because you might lose your position on the team or on a line, you're going to hold back and you're going to only go 65, 75%. But yet when we know that to learn, we got to be pushing ourselves and challenging ourselves to grow and learn new skills. So, where did I say this one? They're called players for a reason, right? Players for a reason. Play the game, have fun, bring the joy back. I'm sorry, but I watched Sidney Crosby last night, and I learned from him, Cale, in warm-ups, but he's got a smile on his face. When Ovechkin scored, the go-ahead goal on Gretzky, and he was doing all the interviews, the thing that I kept hearing him say was, "This is fun. This is fun." Guys who enjoy the game perform, right? Play unlocks creativity, resilience, and love for the game. Psychological safety leads to high performance. Again, this is science-based facts, right? If we can create an ecosystem of safety, players flourish, right? Not just survive, but thrive. So I'd like to talk about challenge versus threat. So challenge, threat basically being fear, right? And challenge is in a place where we can grow. Athletes who frame pressure as challenge outperform those who see it as a threat. Can you coach this? Can you start to create an environment of challenge instead of threat? Where we challenge each other. We're challenging each other in this room. I'm going to challenge you at the end of this conversation. I challenged you at the beginning, right? So can you create an ecosystem of challenge? It is optimal learning, growth, and performance. And mistakes are essential to progress. How many of us punish mistakes? Right? I remember a couple of drills, growing up in Canada, and I'd play right wing. I was left-handed shot, and I just remember one particular breakout drill. I was trying to break out, take the pass on my backhand. I couldn't get it. I just kept going off my blade, and I got do it again, and he made fun of me. Do it again. And then a skills coach came around, said, "Nick, just twist your wrist open. Just really, it'll feel awkward, but just get your blade at a 90-degree angle to the puck." But it's just going to go inside. No, it'll, trust me. Then I pulled it away. I turned, blade 90-degree angle, puck hit it, stuck. Right? One coach made fun of me. The other coach, after these mistakes that I was making, gave me a tip and an instruction. I did it and I learned. Never forgot it. So, toughness is built through challenge. So we're going to redefine toughness, right? From our old school toughness to toughness built on resiliency, right? Purposeful practice that was mentioned yesterday. So we train the mental gym. There's a part of the brain called the ACC, the anterior cingulate cortex, and it strengthens through discomfort. So anybody here ice bath or cold plunge? Who likes doing that? Anybody? You like doing it? Okay, you might be a little bit strange. Thanks. I'm glad you said it. I do it 4 or 5 times a week. I'm lucky that I can do it, and I do not like doing it. I do it in the morning first thing because it's the hardest thing I have to do in the day, and I get it out of the way. But also I'm learning that when I'm in that water, my body feels threat, right? It's thinking, oh, you're going to die of hypothermia. So it creates cold shock proteins, it does all this great stuff, reduces inflammation, pushes blood around to all these areas that you need to survive, right? But if I breathe through it, right, my emotion of fear, if I breathe through it, I have a different relationship with that emotion, fear. And I'm all of a sudden learning emotional regulation. Not emotional control, but emotional regulation, which is key to us thriving as human beings, because fear is always going to be there, right? We're always going to have it. It's just how do we have that relationship with it, and how do we understand that our players have fear, and how can we help them have their relationship with fear? So I'm going to be honest how this might be landing in here. This isn't fluff. This is evidence-backed performance evolution. But in my experience, it is also human-based care, right? You might be thinking, this all sounds soft, I turned out fine. It's not a rejection of tradition, it's a building on it with better tools. This helps results-driven coaches, coaches win, and human focus connect. So it helps players grow, thrive, and stay in the game longer. This isn't about sharpening the coach. It's about sharpening the coach, not softening the sport. I always like the metaphor that somebody uses, like our parents and our coaches before us, like they were given a spoon to cut a loaf of bread, right? They did the job, but the slices for the toast were a little rough around the edges. But one today is like, I don't know how many of you grew up playing hockey with straight blades? Co-host silver fibers, right? Anybody? Yeah. Well, we know better now, right? We've learned, we've got technology, and we know better. I guarantee any one of you in here is not going to put a team with co-host silver fibers out there against a team with new technology, okay? So we have more tools, folks. We have more tools. So let's be curious and start learning to use them. I like to think, you know, this is be easier on a Zoom meeting, but like life was like this, you know? I was good, I was okay, but life was like this. And I would go down life, in my train tracks, life, and things would happen, and I would look at the tools that I had in here, and they worked. When I did this, yeah, more tools, more space, right? More creativity, more learning, more thriving. So something for you to consider is the comet metaphor. Players don't leave their stories at the locker room door. We coach the whole comet, and you guys are comets too, all right? Think about this. Everyone walks in with a tale of past history, pressure, joy, grief, and pride. Now, mental health openness has increased, so we must still build resiliency. Now, I say over the last 5 or 10 years, that whole word of mental health, mental well-being, they've been co-opted. You know, my wife works in education, and she knows students that will Google reasonable adjustments, right? And they will go in with symptoms of anxiety and stress, you know, and they'll be able to get reasonable adjustments to make their life easier, right? To get the easy way out. And we have to be aware of that, right? Please understand, physical scars can fade, emotional wounds often don't. You guys get your teammates, your players for so many hours a week. They're at home a lot. And we don't all know the environments that our players are coming from home. Some are very safe, and some are not safe, right? So we have a responsibility to be able to see our athletes as humans who have stuff going on in their lives. And just like Heather was talking about, work takes to put your practice together, it takes work to get to know your teams, right? And your players. And it's up to us to do that work. We have a responsibility, right? If we don't understand their tale, we only coach the surface. And great coaching connects with the full human, not just the performer. So again, think about your team as an engine with 20, 23 cylinders pumping up and down, with an ignition spark, a fuel mixture, all to drive a prop shaft to spin the wheels to go fast, right? Now, if we think every single piston needs a different fuel mixture, different timing, different spark, right, to get that optimum performance of that machine, you can't treat your whole team the same. This takes work and curiosity. And this is something that we developed that helps us with this, is we understand toughness, all right? A lot of us have very, very good concept of toughness and resiliency, our ability to bounce back and keep going, grit, determination. And then we have this area and this spectrum all the way through to tenderness. And what does that actually mean? So this is about the full spectrum of what it's like to be human. And these are words that we used so that they can land with people. And we found with athletes and with coaches and with parents, these two words do land without creating a little, But I do understand for some of us that word tenderness might mean soft. And I really want to ensure you that it's not. The program was created by my business partner, Dr. Misha Jervis, who's a sports psychologist at Brunel University. She was a sports psychologist before there were, she's like over 30 years in the business, and was the England Lionesses' first sports psychologist in football. And she's done elite level football and rugby for a long time. And over the last 5 years has been getting into hockey with me. Where if she was here, she would tell you a lot of her observations, and I'm sure you're going to hear about it over the weeks and months to come. Miyamoto Musashi, determined though calm, Book of 5 Rings, tough and tender. We can be determined and we can be calm. This is about balance. Something I was talking to a couple of gentlemen about last night. Balance, and balance takes work, right? So tough is one aspect of the spectrum. Bunch of parts in between, our emotions and our feelings through to our tenderness, our compassion and our empathy, and how we step into it and really start having a relationship with it all, so that we can unlock the full source of ourselves and of our athletes. And this is why I say, most athletes are running on half battery. It's like, I even say all of us, we've been operating with, say, a coal-fired power plant, right? It works, gets us a lot of energy, it does its job. Coal-fired power plants work. They also can create some pollution and have some harmful effects on us. But if we understand that there is a power source inside behind that we can tap into, we'll just call it the human power source, that doesn't create any harm, and we can tap into that, we can unlock even more potential. Again, not just as athletes and performers, but as people. Coaching is leadership. I really am in awe of all of you being here today so that you could come and learn. Good leadership is being open-minded. There's a quote from a guy named William Paley. He was an English philosopher, and he said that, roughly, there's a principle in which will keep a man in everlasting ignorance, and that principle is contempt prior to investigation. You guys are all investigators, right? Not just here to win, but learn how to help people, right? So coaching is a leadership role, and how we lead matters. When I did my coaching certificates a few years ago, they were the guys who were taking it through, they were very open about, the role and some of the things that are going on in society. I'm a new stepdad as well. I've been a stepdad to 3 boys for 4 years, five years. and I'm learning more about myself through them. You know, the challenges that the young people are going through today were not around when we were growing up, right? So we just need to be aware of this. And that's why it matters. And as coaches, and I've done this, I'll snap back into fear easily. Because ultimately, I'm just not, I'm scared. I'm scared of not being respected. So I'll snap into, I'm going to make these guys fear me so that they respect me. Now I have the tools to be able to step back from that and not respond through it or react through it, right? Which is something, again, we want to try to learn. Something the program teaches us is how to respond and not react. How many of you have a coach or a parent or a mentor that you still has influence in you today in some way? Yes, yes, yes. Many of you, yeah? Would you say all of it is good? Yeah? Amazing. Would you say that there's maybe a mentor or a coach or something like that has taught you something that you're like, oh, I wish I could unlearn that? Yeah? Would you mind saying what it is at all?
Me?
Yeah.
I was Googling Misha Gervis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of course. Growing up in the 80s, 90s, some coaches were really fear-based.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these threats of do this, otherwise you are not allowed to be here, these kind of things.
Yeah, punitive leadership, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you put your hand up for good. What are some of the good things that you learned?
I would say that we need to stay connected.
Connected, yeah.
Connected so that the relationships continue on,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's invaluable for us to continue to give back.
Yeah. Giving back. That you learned from your coaches and your mentors. So if we're pulling things from the past, right, good and bad, we need to be aware of that, right? We need to know that we can react. And again, being a stepdad has helped me so much because all I knew about parenting was my dad taught me, which is do, you know, and right? Discipline. So as soon as I stepped into these boys' life, I was like, stop talking to your mom like that. Go clean up your room. Da-da-da-da-da. And it felt ugly. I did not feel good. Like I had to step away and I had to do some work. I had to do tough through tender to realize that I'm not here to save them. You know, they're here to teach me. And they become the biggest teachers in my life of being able to use the tools that I have now today of being able to respond through self and not react in ego. And when I say respond through self, I was briefly talking to Mike before about we're always judged, right? When you look in the mirror on, I'm Nick the coach, I'm Nick the husband, I'm Nick the stepdad, I'm Nick the TV guy, right? I'm Nick the guy who runs a company. I'm always judge myself on my relationship with other people. And up until I was 45 years of my life, I was always operating in that zone, right? It wasn't until I got curious to go, who am I? Has anyone in this room ever looked in the mirror and went, who am I? You're not just strange, you're deep, dude. I bet you meditate, right?
Every day.
Beautiful, right? And you put up your hand as well?
Yeah, I was in India questioning that. Who am I really?
Enlightened folks, you know? Amazing, right? Being curious. Isn't that interesting? That many of us, 2 people put up their hand. I'm sure there's some other ones, because I do think that this journey has started already for many people of, I can only know you as deeply as I know myself. I'm going to say it again. I can only know you as deeply as I've met myself. Let that sink in. That means the relationships that we have are only as deep as the relationship we have with self. With power comes great responsibility, Spider-Man. Right? and it's true. You guys are sitting in a position of responsibility, right? Human-centered coaching wins, right? I want to honor the fact that you guys are here to learn, and a byproduct of what you're going to learn is winning, right? But I'm sure if I said, why are you here? Barry wouldn't have said, I'm here to win, right? Coaching the human elevates your team, and there is some pretty hardcore evidence that backs this up. A guy who I follow and read a lot about is Phil Jackson. Who's watched The Last Dance? Right? Please watch The Last Dance and you'll get it. How this man could treat each player on his team individually for the success of the whole team. Steve Kerr teaches emotional intelligence. Gareth Southgate, the ex-England manager, psychological safety under pressure. And I know in the NHL there are a lot more than this, but Cooper, Sullivan, and Keefe are preaching calmness, connection, and communication. And players thrive when they're seen and respected. There's some quotes here. This approach doesn't just work, it restores joy, trust, and performance potential. This is what threat-based leadership looks like. So I'm sitting there and I've got my little cursor on here. That's the top quote is threat-based fear, power over leadership. I don't need to mention the coach. Does anyone want to guess? Keep it to yourself. But imagine being terrified to go to the rink. Come on, guys. You can't, no one in here should have an athlete that is terrified to go to the rink. It's not what we're about. It's not the ethics of this game. This game is about community, connection, coming together. It's where it was spawned, was community. People welcomed, never rejected, or I can't go in there. He cared about the human spirit. Glenn Anderson, NHL Hall of Famer. Does anyone, you can name this if you know. Anyone know the coach he's talking about? It's not Glenn Sather. Anybody? Whispers. Barry, you're going to guess? David Bauer? Father David Bauer? Yeah. Who do you want to be remembered by as? Right? So, to get to know self, this is a little exercise we're going to do, guys. To get to know self, Greg talked about it yesterday, values. Values underpin integrity. What are your values? Do you guys have a notepad and a pen and paper you want to get out? Values aren't goals, they're directions. They help us choose who we want to be, not just what we want to do. Most conflict, internal or external, is values conflict. Basically, all of my problems are of my own making, right? I can't be blaming others. There's some kind of conflict with my values. Today, I understand my values, and I never knew them 5 years ago. You know, I'm 54 years old. Family, compassion, vulnerability, authenticity, and humility. And I did work to do that. So I've asked you to be curious, not perfect. I'm not preaching to you guys, I'm just asking you to be a little bit curious about what your values. So just on your note, this is just some examples of some values, but just on your notebook. In adversity, and in challenge state, in adversity, what do you want to stand for? You can write some down. But there's just some examples: integrity, accountability, presence, loyalty, courage, growth, excellence, humility, compassion, trust, commitment, fun. In adversity, think of a coaching scenario. How do you want to stand up? Fear, I'm not going to be respected, or some integrity? Boundaries, being able to say no, right? Might be seen as being, that's actually tender. You know, being able to say no to somebody. How do you want to show up? So just write, does anybody want to share any values you want to share? Anybody? I'm looking at my two gurus here. Any values you want to share?
Silence.
Silence, beautiful. I know that's a cue for me to shut up. I won't take it personally. I'm counting, I've got like 4 minutes. Take these away with you. You can Google values exercises. But until you do your own values, how do you expect other people to operate in their values? Does that make sense? Get to know self. Right? Be curious. Who am I? Tools for self-leadership. I'm going to skip this because I think it's just we don't have enough time, but these are some tools that we're going to be working on in the months and to come that we can give you guys and you guys can pass on. But the values was the important thing I wanted to do with you, is to find our values so that we can then get to know ourselves, so that we can learn to respond through self and not react in ego. Again, my example of my 16-year-old, he'll do something that will really upset me. Eunice, what the? But I have a drop the anchor moment. Nick, shut the F up is mine. Say it in my head, shut up. I actually have to say the F word. It just makes it land with me. But shut the F up. I take a breath, I regulate, and I pick a value that I'm going to respond in, right? Family, compassion. Kid had a tough life, right? Why I've come in, I've done this, what's he expecting from me? Why am I trying to lead? Why can't I just be his guide? Why do I have to be this disciplined guy? And we formed a really good bond. I say sorry when I'm wrong. I say sorry when I'm wrong. The connection that I make with people, not just the kids, but people, when I've made a mistake, I'm growing through making the mistake. I'm growing by saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong to have done that. I will do better next time. And I've done that on the ice with Learn to Plays in East London. Looked like something out of the Mighty Ducks movie. Bunch of kids from different backgrounds. I yell because one person is banging their skates on the boards, just figuring out this ice is slippy. I have to show my presence and yell. Where did that come from? Oh, my fear of not being respected. And that popped out of me 4 years ago. And I'm doing this work. But I take the girl, I take her mom, I explain, I say I'm sorry. The connection, the eye contact, and the growth that happened is visceral. Right? We're comets too. We make mistakes. We grow through our mistakes. And we grow through admitting them and accepting them and apologizing. Coaching is evolving, so are we. What part of your coaching is inherited and not chosen? How do you want hockey to shape people? We're not replacing toughness, we're redefining it. And legacy, folks, is not in the wins, it's in how they remember you. Every single person in my life, it's nothing to do with what we were doing. It's them as a person. The more you know, the more I know, the more I know, the more I know I don't know. So be curious. And Maya Angelou, I'll end it on this. Just do your best. Until you know better, we are learning. So that means we can do better. Do your best until you know better, and when you know better, do better. That's all we ask. That's integrity. I'm just going to do one quick little thing. Could I please ask you all to stand up and make a circle around your table? If you're not on the table, you got people next to you. Just make a circle. Folks, it's 360 odd days until the next one of these. Right? I don't know if some of you are going to be coming back, but you are learning a lot. It's up to you to choose what you're going to do with that knowledge. Bring it back and share it. Be part of a community. Be connected. That's what makes this great game the greatest game on the planet. So with your left hand, I want you to think about resiliency. I want you to think about toughness. And I want you to put it 90 degrees out to you. With your left hand, yes, left hand. I'm backwards with you guys. Left hand, toughness. 90-degree elbow in. Right hand, tenderness, compassion, vulnerability, right? In the middle is balance. This takes work, all right? You can hold your hands out like this. Toughness and tenderness. I'm giving you guys a little drip feed of what it's like, all right? Now, if you just take a step in and open your elbows out. Take a deep breath. Because now you've learned a little bit more. Now you know better. Now you can do better. Your toughness is needed. And so is your tenderness. They're both needed. Now, either side of you, there's someone holding some toughness and some tenderness. And sometimes to be a human, we need other people's toughness and tenderness. So grab a hold of the person next to you. Grab their toughness. Grab their tenderness. Folks, a few little giggles, right? But listen, feel it. Grab each other's hands, yeah? Feel the toughness, feel the tenderness. You are connected now. Stay accountable towards one another. Go forward from here and take what you've learned and bring it into your communities, all right? You guys are amazing people. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much. Sampat?
I buy into at least 99.8% of everything that you're conveying. But the issue of time, these people here have a time limit. Mm-hmm. That limit may be a day, a week, a month, and in the best case, a 3-year contract that they have time to build on different ways to make things better. Mm-hmm. Someone that feels like they're pressure with time. Any suggestions to dealing with just that issue?
Oh, I have a lot of friends who are like, I don't have enough time in for this. I don't have enough time to meditate. I don't have enough time to have a hot bath. I don't, you know? And I'm not, if I'm going to be old school, I'm going to say make it. But that isn't it. It's about planning. It's about preparation. It's about learning the people around you, the folks that you just held hands with. Lean on other people. What integrity is going to be doing over the next little while, there will be tools available for you to help to create time, right? And I know that we can't make more time in the world, but we can manage ourselves by managing self better. We can manage our time better. So it's about having that relationship with ourselves to know what's expected of us and what we can produce into this world.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.
5 minutes.